Target has been a cornerstone of American retail since the 1960s. That initial store in Roseville, Minnesota was launched by the Dayton Company, which already operated upscale department stores. The discount retail concept paired with distinctive branding proved incredibly successful across subsequent decades, eventually becoming their primary business. In the early 2000s, they rebranded as Target Corporation just before opening their 1,000th store. Today, the company ranks among America's top 10 retailers with more than $100 billion in annual revenue from nearly 2,000 stores spanning all 50 states. Clearly, this remains a substantial enterprise that touches countless lives. However, examining over 6 decades of history, this current period stands out as particularly turbulent and troubling. After hitting its peak market value in 2021, Target shares have plunged over 65%, wiping out nearly $90 billion in market capitalization and demonstrating severe investor doubt. Keep in mind this decline occurred while broader markets generally trended upward. Their main competitor Walmart, for instance, has roughly doubled in value during the same time frame. Hey, quick favor before we dive deeper. If you're enjoying this deep dive into Target's collapse, smash that like button and subscribe. Back to our video. Through 2025, Target has ranked among the 20 poorest performing stocks in the S&P 500, shedding over a third of its value year to date. This stems partly from revenues remaining essentially flat for several years. In fact, 2023 represented their first year-over-year comparable sales decrease since 2016. Most recently, the company revealed plans to eliminate 1,800 corporate positions, approximately 8% of their corporate staff. I could continue highlighting warning signs, including their decade-long CEO stepping down and their new CEO acknowledging they're underperforming their potential. But most observers agree that Target faces unprecedented anxiety, perhaps for the first time ever. So let's examine what's been unfolding by exploring what I consider 4 major factors behind their recent difficulties. Leadership transitions. Starting with leadership, I recognize that virtually any company's success or failure ultimately traces back to management. But this situation has been particularly unusual. In 2013, Target confronted serious problems, including mounting competition from e-commerce players, a catastrophic Canadian expansion attempt, and a devastating data breach right during holiday shopping that exposed 40 million customers' credit card details. All this triggered a leadership change with Brian Cornell joining as the new CEO. For quite some time, he received considerable acclaim. His strategy centered on investing billions into location renovations, launching private labels, and developing an inventory system where physical stores themselves would essentially function as distribution centers for online purchases. It was a bold plan reinforcing their dedication to brick-and-mortar retail, and it rapidly delivered results. Virtually every year brought something significant. In 2018, launching their Vermont location meant they officially operated in all 50 states. In 2019, CNN recognized him as Business CEO of the Year. In 2020, Target actually benefited from the pandemic, especially from consumers purchasing home items since they spent considerable time there. In 2021, the company exceeded $100 billion in revenue for the first time, coinciding with their peak stock valuation. In 2022, Target even eliminated their policy requiring CEO retirement at age 65, so that 63-year-old Brian Cornell could extend his contract 3 years. Well, those 3 years haven't gone particularly well, considering some strategies backfired alongside other questionable choices I'll discuss throughout this list. Many have voiced the opinion that he should be replaced with an external candidate, someone with innovative ideas who wasn't involved in recent decisions that led to this crisis. His replacement was announced as Michael Fidelke, who has served as Chief Operating Officer, Chief Financial Officer, and actually began as an intern over 20 years ago. Essentially, someone who couldn't possibly be more entrenched in the company. Stock prices dropped the announcement day, reflecting investor skepticism about his ability to reverse these trends. To be clear, I'm not declaring the company is finished with him leading. Only time will reveal that. But there's been substantial doubt surrounding Target's leadership recently. Discretionary spending pressures. Next on my list is discretionary products. meaning non-essential items consumers are more inclined to purchase when they have disposable income. Well, over recent years, you likely see where this leads. Economic factors like inflation and interest rates have resulted in reduced discretionary spending, creating problems for retailers like Target that remain heavily dependent on it. Walmart launched their first supercenter in 1988 with an expanded grocery department. 7 years later, Target followed with their first SuperTarget. Over 3 decades, Target has gradually increased grocery sales to represent almost a quarter of their business. But Walmart has pursued this far more aggressively, with groceries currently comprising about 60% of their revenue. Since consumers tend to maintain grocery purchases even during financial strain, you can understand how Target has been disproportionately impacted by inflation. I also want to note that recent tariffs have been a similar complicating factor, considering Target typically imports a higher percentage of merchandise from international sources compared to Walmart. Much of that difference relates to groceries generally being sourced domestically. So to summarize, Target customers spend considerable money on items they don't necessarily need, and that's proven problematic in the current economic climate. DEI initiatives and boycotts. Next would be DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. Right away, I want to acknowledge this can be an extremely sensitive topic, so I'll try to address it carefully without excessive detail. In 2020, George Floyd was murdered in Minneapolis, which happens to be Target's headquarters location. Brian Cornell said this event motivated him to launch these DEI initiatives because it could have been one of his Target employees. These included establishing hiring targets for minority employees and stocking more product from minority-owned businesses, including a commitment to spend over $2 billion with Black-owned businesses by 2025. Well, in early 2025, Target announced they would terminate most of these initiatives. It came just days after Donald Trump's inauguration as president, and very likely responded to his policies opposing similar programs. But Target then faced massive backlash for their decision, including an organized boycott that continues today. Target has acknowledged this decision has damaged their sales, and even 2 daughters of the company's co-founder have publicly opposed the decision, stating they were shocked and dismayed. I want to emphasize that other major corporations, including Walmart, have ended similar initiatives without receiving nearly comparable backlash. I would guess that smaller response likely reflects that Target has a considerably more progressive customer base and appeared more vocal and passionate about these efforts initially. I also want to mention controversy from 2023 concerning LGBTQ-themed merchandise they sold during Pride Month. It was controversial from the start, with concerns about employee safety partially driven by false social media rumors claiming they were marketing transgender-designed bathing suits toward children. Ultimately, they removed most of these displays, and, predictably, that upset many people. Again, these are sensitive and divisive issues they might be better off avoiding entirely, especially if they're not taking a definitive stance. To me, it feels like they're attempting to please everyone while actually upsetting everyone. Customer experience decline. For my final reason behind their recent troubles, I'll be somewhat broader and group several concerns together by discussing customer experience, which surprises me. For as long as I can remember, Target has maintained an excellent reputation as an enjoyable place to shop and discover products. People affectionately call it Tarjai because it feels somewhat upscale for a discount store. But lately people have been questioning whether it still deserves that French-sounding pronunciation. Of course, this is largely subjective, so please share if you've noticed any changes in your shopping experiences recently. But just to mention some common complaints. Some have criticized merchandise not being as fashionable or appealing as before, possibly due to greater emphasis on private label brands and some inventory problems following the pandemic when consumer spending habits shifted. Recent attempts to address this include partnerships with Kate Spade and Champion, both appearing to attract customers. But something potentially worsening the situation would be their partnership with Ulta, ending in August 2026. Those two began collaborating to establish these small Ulta stores within Target stores, similar to what Kohl's has done with Sephora during their peak year in 2021 and attracted substantial foot traffic. But they've officially announced they won't renew their contract, so that could potentially damage sales going forward. Other frequent complaints include disorganized stores or even unfriendly employees. Both could be attributed to that plan, where stores started functioning as fulfillment centers for online orders. Today, 96% of orders are fulfilled at stores instead of warehouses, compared to Walmart, where it's approximately half and half. So Target employees are too busy filling orders instead of stocking shelves, assisting customers, or maintaining cleanliness. However, lately they've been experimenting to determine which stores are better equipped to fulfill these online orders with the goal of improving the guest experience. So if everything proceeds according to plan, they'll be able to fulfill these orders without sacrificing cleanliness or availability within stores. At minimum, it seems they're aware of these customer complaints and taking steps to address them. Looking forward, let me know in the comments what you think about Target, and how has your opinion evolved over the past 5 or even 10 years? And perhaps more importantly, what do you foresee for the future? With the new CEO and some recent changes, this feels like a critical moment where things can either begin recovering or continue declining beyond repair. I think the fundamental issue is that Target isn't as beloved as before and is giving customers more reasons to switch to competitors. So what do they need to do to repair their reputation and begin that recovery? And finally, do you agree with my reasons behind their struggles, or should something be added or removed from the list? And any other thoughts you have about Target, leave them in the comments. I'd like to hear what you think. Thank you for watching.